Bryson Graham's press conference left us with a lot to think about, but I do think that there are some things that were said in that press conference that some Bulls fans are taking too literally, namely like the whole slap thing, and now thinking that that means, oh, Josh Giddey doesn't fit that, so he's absolutely going to be traded. So on today's episode, we're going to play a little game called Facts or Cap, right? So I'm going to do that with some of the narrative that has popped up on Bulls social media from fans after Bryson Graham's press conference. We're also going to talk about Sweeney and his name keep popping up as a name to be interested in watch for the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to look at the last mock drafts from around the basketball world before the draft combine. The draft lottery on Sunday. We're going to get into all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. So we're going to play Facts or Cap today. This is a new reoccurring segment that we're going to do maybe once a week, depending on how much, because I feel like there's a lot of narrative that gets pushed around Bulls social media, namely Twitter. And sometimes, I've said it before, my job sitting in this chair is to debunk some of that for people who don't have time to go through all the stuff on social media and watch every video to see exactly what's being said or not. So we're going to start that on today's episode. So we're going to start off talking about the SLAP blueprint, right? So this is an acronym that Bryson Graham said during this press conference, a lot of people have been running with. That's size, length, athleticism, and physicality. Well, he wants versatile two-way players. He very much so committed, talked to that. He pointed to teams like OKC and Boston as examples of where the league is going, right? He said that the goal for this team overall is to be tough, long, athletic, and switchable when it comes down to it. So with that said, right, there's no doubt that this is facts. I think that this is the modern building that's done, right, in the NBA, is that you want players that can guard multiple positions. I think that's what it comes down to, right? You want that around. And I think even with saying that, like, those are the exact type of players you want around Josh Giddey anyway. We'll get more on the Josh Giddey piece on this here in a second. But I think that you want to have a vision, right? And that's something that I said even before we hired a GM, is that you want somebody that has a vision for what they want this roster to look like. And I love the fact that Bryson Graham has a vision that he wants a roster that he builds to look like. But I do think that some of the things that people are, are overlooking in some of that, he even said it with the coaches, that, it still comes down to you want good players. Now, every player on the team isn't going to be a great defender. That's just the reality of it. Every team, even Boston has some of that. OKC, probably a little bit less. You do have a lot of defenders on that team. But even with that said, like, you want those guys, right? But I do think that people are looking at this and saying, well, automatically, Josh Giddey doesn't fit that. That means he's going to be gone. I think, people have even said, well, Modest Buzelis, he has the size, he has the length, he doesn't have the physicality, so that he could be traded, right? It's just a panic thing when it comes down to it. So does the slap mean Josh Giddey's going to be traded, right? I say that it does not mean that the Bulls are, as Bryson Graham said, on the ground level. So because of that, I do think that the reaction that Bulls fans are having to, hey, maybe Josh Giddey's not going to fit that, is understandable, but it is a bit premature, right? Bryson Graham also talked about evaluating players, wanting to do this, allowing, unexpected players to earn roles. And also that he said before, like, hey, I'm going to take, if I believe in a player and I like the way that they play, like, I'm going to take them and let the rest work itself out. If I want a coach that maybe hasn't won, I'll deal with how the reactions from later. I do think it's up to Giddey to prove he can stay healthy, compete defensively, and continue to work on the things of his game that he worked on. Is Josh Giddey ever going to be a lockdown defender? No, probably not. I do think Josh Giddey has taken steps and strides defensively. The numbers bore this out. They support that as well. And I think he's going to have to prove that he can continue to take those steps forward in that one. So the verdict on that, because Josh Giddey doesn't fit slap, that it automatically means he's going to be traded, I'm going to call cap on that for now, but it is up for Josh Giddey during this evaluation period to show that he's good enough in the areas that he's solid in, that it can overcome that and he can fit in and make players better around them. So it still comes down to that. I do think Modest and Noah Essengay are clear slap fits, but in regards to Josh Giddey, I think that it's a little premature to automatically say he's going to be moved because of the acronym that Bryson Graham gave. And we're going to see. We're going to see that live and in living color with Josh Giddey based off how he plays. We also got to know the coach as well. Like, Josh Giddey could be the perfect point guard for the system that our new coach brings over, and therefore you kind of make some caveats like you have to do with other rosters as far as fitting the other things around him to overcome some of that. But I think it's a little premature right now, so I'm going to call cap on it for now, but let's put a pin in this one. We'll have this conversation again around midway through next season and maybe again at the end of next season, looking at how things are going and developing. So as of right now, I'll call cap on that, but we'll see, right? Then the long-term build, right? Like Bryson Graham used the term rebuild, and that's perfectly fine. And the thing is that it's left many people to ask, like, okay, is this going to be long-term or is it going to be short-term thing? And while Bryson Graham, talked about not skipping, well, Michael Reinsdorf talked about not skipping steps. Bryson Graham talked about, wanting to take time and do it right. But I do think with the assets that the Bulls have, because he also talked about being excited to use the cap space, being excited for the 2 picks in the top 15. So because of that, you could see if this stuff works out, that rebuild be a little bit accelerated, right? So I do think with Bryson Graham saying we're going to get it in the mud, we're working from the ground floor, all that, laying the foundation, this team. I do think setting the expectations early in the manner that Bryson Graham has is important in that one, but I don't think that the Bulls are going to avoid moves that clearly improve them. I think they're still going to be looking out to make moves that clearly improve the team and help push them forward. So the fact of the rebuild, how long is it going to take? Right now, I'll say it's facts, right? Because we don't know. Like, we have so much up in the air with this roster. There's no way you can say that is cap. You just can't legitimately say that. But as this offseason goes on, I do think that we'll see, like, just because we're in a rebuild, it doesn't mean we're in a do-nothing offseason. Now, there are a lot of different options he can take with that. He can use the cap space to take on bad contracts, stack draft picks. If those type of moves start happening, then yeah, I think that, okay, you're saying you're going to do it longer then. If you trade players like Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, Isaac Okoro, and get whatever assets you can back for them, I think, yeah, that shows even more like, yeah, we're clearing out cheap veterans to stack other things. That shows that it could be a long rebuild. So right now I'll say facts, but it doesn't mean that nothing's going to be done this offseason. We just got to see. As far as the no player is untradeable, right? I think when it comes down to this one, of course, Bulls fans have now taken this to mean that means everybody's going to be traded. I think you have to take Bryson Graham for his word. He said, hey, yeah, no player is untradeable, but also it doesn't mean we're going to trade everyone. So in the sense of that, I do think that this front office and Bryson Graham as the evaluator that he's going to want to really evaluate this roster. Now, that doesn't mean that he may not be able to make some evaluations on players early on, but I do think the Bulls under this, they're not going to overcommit to anybody anytime soon. So that applies to Josh Giddey. That applies to Modest Buzelis. That applies to Noah Esky. That applies to every single person on this roster, that they're not going to overcommit until the vision is clear and they really start seeing how those pieces do fit. And we'll see with that one. So as of right now, no player being untouchable, that's absolutely facts, but it's facts within reason. It doesn't mean that we're going to see a bunch of mass trades like we saw this trade deadline either. We're just going to see how those things are going to go on. Another thing that's popped up a lot in it is in regards to Monty Williams. He's mentioned Monty Williams as being somebody that's a mentor that he's learned from. He's mentioned the lessons learned from Monty Williams, and some fans have taken that as meaning that Monty Williams is automatically going to be one of the coaching candidates here. Here's the issue. Monty Williams is still being paid by Detroit after signing a massive 6-year, I think $78 million deal to coach the Detroit Pistons. And, even being fired, you're still on that. Now, the Bulls are probably not going to make him the highest paid coach in the league like the Detroit Pistons done. So I think also when you see with Monty Williams, the Detroit Pistons had to go to him 3 times to get him to take that job because he didn't believe in the roster. I don't think Monty Williams is going to take a job in the Chicago Bulls if he does not believe in the roster, right? And because the roster's so much up in air, that would mean that he has to believe in Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, Noah Esky, and whatever Bryson Graham could sell him on what the vision is. Do I think he's going to be interviewed? We'll see, right? But keep in mind, Monty Williams also mentioned David Griffin. It doesn't mean that David Griffin's going to be a Bulls target for the GM. So right now, I'm going to call cap on that right now. There's a possible connection, but just because there's a connection, it doesn't mean that it has momentum. And that's what we're going to have to see with the Bulls. So let me know what you guys think on those topics. Facts or cap? I like that. I think we're going to keep that in here. I think it fits kind of the motto of this show, my personality as well. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, I want to talk about Sean Sweeney. His name keeps popping up in rumors with the coach. Now, we know that Bryson Graham said he has not even put a list of candidates together yet, but Sean Sweeney's name keep coming on linked to that. Brett Siegel mentioned it. Jake Fisher noted it as well, that Sweeney is expected to be part of Chicago's coaching search and possibly Orlando's as well. I do think he is interviewing for the Pelicans. He's one of the finalists for the Pelicans position, along with Rajon Rondo. But I think when you look at Sean Sweeney, he brings experience with the Nets, the Bucks, the Pistons, and the Spurs. He is a defensive savant when it comes down to it. Now, I know people are going to say, well, Haize, Bryson Graham mentioned he wants coaches that can do both and everything. He can do both of that. It's just that defense is kind of his specialty, not that he can't coach offense. I think when you look at it, he's known as somebody who's being very direct with player evaluations. He works hard. He's obsessive about the preparation and getting players ready for the game. Kevin Garnett said once about Sean Sweeney. Shut the fuck up and listen to Sean Sweeney because he knows what he's talking about. That's what Kevin Garnett, one of the most fiercest competitors in the sport's history, right? He's a mastermind defensively, though, but he does impact on both sides of the ball. He has had some control over the offense and in-game adjustments over the offense when he worked under Jason Kidd with the Dallas Mavericks. So it's not that he hasn't also coached offense. So for anybody who's going to look at that and say, but Haize, Bryson Graham said he wanted guys that can coach both. He's coached both. He's just known as really a defensive mastermind, but he also has made offensive adjustments as the lead assistants between that. He helped develop a young Giannis Antetokounmpo early in his career as well. He worked with him 2 to 4 times daily in the offseason to work with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I would want that for Modest. I would want that for Noah Essengay. I want that for whoever we draft, right? So there you go when it comes down to it. He has a specialist he's known as one of the guys that is highly, when you talk about how Bryson Graham wants to build a roster with switchable long defenders, Sean Sweeney is one of the masterminds of that. Players between 6'5" and 6'9", he knows he's the mastermind of switching it. He's turned worst defenses into top 10 defenses as well when it comes down to it. So this is a guy that has that acumen to be able to do those things. He's a great basketball mind. I think one of the defining moments of his career as well was during the 2022 playoffs in Game 7 when they completely killed the Phoenix Suns. He held them to 37.8% shooting and 17 turnovers, and his help and recover system, that's the name of his defensive system, absolutely caused fits for the Phoenix Suns in that series. So I think you got to look at that one. 5 core principles that Sean Sweeney likes to employ: be the hardest working team, stay united, maintain competitiveness, smart basketball, and being tough. That all sounds like it's a fit with Bryson Graham and the way that Bryson Graham likes to build out rosters. So there's a lot of reason to think that Sean Sweeney is a really good head coaching candidate. And there's reasons why he continually is linked to the Chicago Bulls, because I think when you look at Bryson Graham and Sean Sweeney could be a match made in heaven. And when you get that pairing right between front office and GM, think Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, it makes so much of what you do as a team and what you're trying to build as a team, especially with the rebuilding team, so much easier when you have those things. Sean Sweeney has the chance to be that under Bryson Graham if he is really interviewed as the head coaching candidate here for the Chicago Bulls. So if you hear Sean Sweeney's name a lot, it's because it makes sense. It's because it's a guy that when you look at his philosophy, Bryson Graham's philosophies, what he likes to do coaching-wise, all that type of stuff is really, really good in regards to that one. So I love what you're hearing in regards to that one. And I think that now you are seeing this, it could all come together for the Bulls. I'm not saying for sure that it's going to come together, but it could all start coming together for the Chicago Bulls. We just got to see if it's going to happen. So let me know what you guys think in regards to that. And if Sean Sweeney is a guy that really stands out to you in regards to what happens with the Chicago Bulls team, let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the last topic for today. I want to do a roundup of all the mock drafts for the Chicago Bulls because the draft lottery goes down Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I will be live on the channel to see where the Bulls pick. The Bulls also announced that Tony Kukoc will be the representative for the Chicago Bulls in the draft lottery this year, which we'll see if he can bring us some luck when it comes down to it. But so I want to go one by one and see what's going to happen. Now, just to kind of overlook, Bryson Graham. Bryson Graham drafted Herb Jones and Trey Murphy in the mid rounds, right? Bryson Graham, the only lottery pick that he's had was Dyson Daniels. That's it. That's the only lottery pick that he's had, right? In regards to that. So you look at that one, he's also drafted Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those are the last two players that have won the NBA's Most Improved Player of the Year award. So, Bryson Graham has some history there. But let's look at it. NBADraft.net, right? Which is, when you look at scouting sites, they are one of the leading scouting sites to get very in the bag in regards to it. And they have the Chicago Bulls drafting Nate Amit at number 9. Now, this is a guy that I think if you're looking at a mixture between the Herb Jones and Trey Murphy modes. He kind of makes some sense into that one. This is a guy that can develop into a 3-level scorer. There's some rough patch with his offense, but I think when you look at the size that he has at 6'10", he has a prototypical wing body when it comes down to it. 205 pounds. He's going to have to put on some weight there, but 39% shooting from the field, 33% shooting from the three, a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio in his year in Tennessee as well. I think that, it's a nice mix up there that could be there for the Chicago Bulls. When you come down to it, compare really well next to Modest. You have to take a look at that. At number 15, they have the Chicago Bulls getting center Chris Sinek Jr. This is a guy that I love at this pick for the Chicago Bulls. I think the size that he has, the three-point shooting that he has, the space to floor, the ability to put the ball on the floor almost like a guard, it brings so much modernness to your roster, and I think he can work really well with Josh Giddey also. So NBADraft.net has the Chicago Bulls drafting both Nate Ament and Chris Sinek Jr. at 9 and 15. Next up, CBS Sports. CBS Sports has the Chicago Bulls drafting Ademar at number 9 and Nate Ament at number 15. Now, I think CBS Sports may be the only one to have Nate Ament going that late, but I'll say this. If Nate Ament is there at number 15, I would absolutely take him. And I know not everybody is as high on him, but with the upside that we just had and we just talked about, if he's there at number 15, I would love it. Now, Ademar at number 9, it's, some people view it as a reach. Some people view it like a lot of mocks have him going in the top 10 now when it comes down to it. I have some questions about Mar, right? Like I said, I think that he's only going to be able to play in drop coverage, much like Nikola Vucevic as well. But I do think he's a way better defender, way better at protecting the rim than Nikola Vucevic ever was. But you talk about being switchable. We'll see in regards to that one. Fansided has the Chicago Bulls, and Chris Klein is their guy that does their mocks there. They also did a lottery, right? So they actually had the Bulls landing the number 4th pick, and they had the Bulls drafting Caleb Wilson at number 4. I like Caleb Wilson as a prospect more than Cam Boozer. I know that's not where everybody goes. I think that you look at Caleb Wilson, that's somebody that Bryson Graham will probably absolutely love, right? You look at the defense, he's an elite finisher around the rim as well. The shooting comes and goes. It's really spotty right now, but this is a guy that really works very hard, and I think he has a little bit of that head case in him. We talked about Kevin Garnett earlier. I do think that he's kind of a head case now. I'm not saying he's as good of a competitor as Kevin Garnett, but I think he has some of that same head case type thing there. I think you want that on the team. At number 15, Klein has the Chicago Bulls drafting Cameron Carr, the 21-year-old scorer, who has size, he has length, he has really good things when it comes down to that one. He has a really good release on the three-point shot as well, right? And I think that that's ones that make sense for the Chicago Bulls also. I've talked about Cameron Carr a lot here lately. He's a guy that's really popped up a lot at 15. More so if the Bulls go guard. Are they going to go 2 wings, right? Would they go Caleb Wilson at 4 and Cameron Carr at number 15? I kind of think they'd go big in regards to that, but I guess we'll see what happens down to it. But, so those are the ones that you're looking at now. Those are the ones that have been updated. And overall, we'll see. I mean, listen, we don't know exactly what this Bulls team is going to do. And that's the part that's really exciting about this team, from who could get moved, the Bulls can choose to build with, all that type of stuff, down to where we are with the head coaching search, all that type of stuff. You never know what's going to happen for the Chicago Bulls. I do think that, one of the prospects in Mikal Brown, we talked about it over on Locked On Bulls. There was a draft expert that said he wouldn't even take Mikal Brown in the 2nd round. That I don't know about, right? That's a little bit crazy to me. But Mikal Brown is 6'5", 190 pounds, a guy that has some two-way ability as well, is another guy that could pop up. We've already talked about Braden Burries, all those type of guys. But we are going to know the exact draft order on Sunday. We're going to know the draft order. And so at that point in time, that's when we're really going to get heavy into the draft bag, because I think there's a lot to be talked about. There's a lot to be said in regards to what could happen in this draft for the Chicago Bulls. And I think overall, you're just looking at this thing, and now the Bulls just have to figure out what's ahead of them. What are they going to do? What's ahead of them? And this is an exciting period of time, man. I can't tell you guys enough how many of you guys have reached out and said that you're excited about where the Bulls seem like they're going. Now, Bryson Graham has really reinvigorated excitement, at least for now, from a part of the Bulls fan base. Now we got to see what's going to happen with it. Bryson Graham has gave us a lot to work with. And now we get to see how much of what he said we get to see play out just right now into it. Even the thought process of having SLAP, right? Size, length, athleticism, physicality, having something that Bulls fans can look at and say, this is how this guy wants to build a team. This is something that we didn't really have with AK. And even if we did, would we have trusted it, right? And so I do think this. It does not automatically mean Josh Giddey or anybody else is going to be traded. I do think right now, people are hanging on to some words very literally that Bryson Graham has said, but at the end of the day, I understand it. Like I said, I understand. I just think it's a little bit premature at some time. The evaluation process for this team is going to be real. It's going to be real. The Bulls, as Bryson Graham said, we are on the ground floor. We're rebuilding, and they're trying to establish the identity and be a reflection of what Bryson Graham wants this team and this franchise to look like. And they're going to need the right coach. They're going to need the right draft picks. They're going to need the right development plan to get there. And so we'll see. If Sweeney's name keeps popping up and these mock drafts keep having boom or bust prospects, we're going to see what's going to happen in that one. But we're probably going to hear next week who's on his list, anybody he reaches out to interview for coaching candidate. And we'll also know the draft position as well next week. So next week could be yet another week of revelation for the Chicago Bulls. We just got to see how things are going to happen with it. So let me know how you guys think, how you feel about all this that we've heard from the Chicago Bulls over the last week, right? Really, where we come down to it now. And hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. As always, you guys can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.